Welcome back to the One More K podcast. Welcome back to episode number 42. It is supported by Lecker Nutrition. My name is Markus, and I've got my sweaty buddy here, Ned Phillips. Good morning, Ned.
And I have my sweaty buddy, Markus Nurk, the two of us living the dream, both out running.
Yes, luckily we have switched off the video recording, so we do record the video, but we're not publishing the video right now, so no one can see our beautiful sweaty faces. How long do you run? How many kilometers?
Me, like 13.
Okay, that's short for you.
It's backyard in 10 days, man.
Right, backyard in 10 days. Your big event is coming up.
It is. I'm just opening the door so I get less echo. I'm in a new place, so I'm figuring it out, people. So sorry if it's a bit echoey. Markus has been bothering me politely and persistently to buy a microphone. I have a wireless one, but it's not so good, but I will do as Markus asks. My big race is indeed in... So what are we today, Markus? It's day behind for you. It's the 8th for me. It's the 7th for you. It's on the 19th of October. So 11 days for me.
How are you feeling about it? You feeling ready?
Look, life, backyard second, considering all I've done, I've actually run, so I don't run a lot. I've done about 2,700K this year, which actually is more than I did all of last year. And this has been my highest running year ever. I'm actually not a high mileage guy, not because I don't want to be, it's just life. I've had a busy life. So 2.7 is not a huge amount for a lot of backyard dudes, but I have done I've done 26 runs this year, longer than a marathon. So I think people know I do 50-ish each weekend. As you know, Markus, you were there when I did 100K once. I've done 100 miles. I've done some 80Ks. But most weekends I do 45, 50, 55K. So I've done 26 runs longer than a marathon. So I think, I am, as they say, you're going to have to scrape me off the course to stop me.
What's the competition looking like?
So there are, Laz just put out the whole country. There's 65 countries taking part. The way it works is each country have 15 people. The team competition is the total loops between all of you. So all 15 of you add up all the loops, and that's the total. The competition at the top end is between USA, Belgium, and Japan. One of those countries will win it. So the number 15th guy in America has 48 loops. So that's their 15th person. Whereas the Belgians have two people over 100. Interestingly, the Polish top guy is 80, but bottom guy is like 48. But most of them are 50 and 60 guys. So if you're in the Polish team, like even the bottom guy is going 48. In Singapore, we have the indomitable, the legend, the great Joshua Toe, who went 72 loops. He's done in backyard, in bigs. He's done 51 in Singapore. Technically, Markus, on the sheets, I am the second-ranked Singaporean at 28 loops, which is pretty miserable, to be honest. 28. There will be some unknown. We have the great Hong Wei Wong, who did 34 before. I'm just going to say this. If I end up in the 20s, I'll be sad. If I'm in the 30s, I'll be pleased. If I'm in the 40s, I'll be thrilled. And if I'm in the 50s, I'm in dreamland.
Wow. Okay. Exciting. Well, we'll, of course, follow and track and talk about it. While you have backyard coming up, I have something special on my side. I'm doing a 10-day Vipassana course, so I'm going in the opposite direction. You're going to move. I'm going to not move for 10 days, and I will talk about this in 10 days, I believe. So everyone out there, we will skip next week with episode. I'm so sorry. This is going to be the first time this year, but all of us have busy lives. In this case, I'm not have a busy life. I will slow down completely.
Markus, honestly, my friend, I have so much respect. I've heard people who've done it. I know you've done it before and it had a significant impact. The idea of sitting silently, not moving, I don't know enough about it, but good on you. I think that's a real test of endurance, way more than backyard or anything else.
I can say that last time's Vipassana, I think I mentioned before on the podcast, but last time Vipassana 2018 set my journey into endurance running much more successfully. So I'm very curious to see what happens this time. Anyway.
Markus, can I make a suggestion? My suggestion, Markus, is that next week we put out a shorter episode and it's just silence. We put out a episode where it is maybe 10 minutes long You're doing 10 days. Why don't we just put out a 10-minute episode that's just silence, and people have to sit and listen to silence for 10 minutes?
Well, let's see how many plays that will have. On this note as well, actually, we have just crossed the 3,000 download mark, if I'm tracking everything correctly. It is across many platforms, not always easy to track it, but we've been on YouTube, on Spotify. Apple Podcasts seems to be the most common platform for us, so our listeners. So thank you everyone out there who has been part of the journey. We are trending upwards, 3,000 downloads. So really appreciate the support out there and all the feedback we're hearing all the time. So really cool. It's going to be a busy show today. No guest this time because we have a lot on the news docket. I start off with Ned's favorite topic, Ironman Group, because I wanted to clarify a bit. I want to clarify something from last episode because you were talking about the ownership of Ironman, and I did some research. In fact, Ironman Group is owned by Advanced. Did you know that?
Once you pointed it out to me, I did. I think it was sold by Wanda to Advance, if I'm not Providence Equity to. If I'm correct, it was sold from the Collins family to this lady. Lady sold it to Providence. Providence sold it to Wanda. Wanda sold it to Advance.
Correct. So Advance is a very old family health business. They own a bunch of other mostly entertainment-related industries, so they own a lot of magazines. So Ars Technica, which I know, for example, very well, they own that, for example. They own the musical productions of Lion King. Do you know those? Lion King productions. It's very famous in Paris and in Hamburg and in other places. And they also happen to own Ironman Group since 2020. So I just felt like clarifying who owns Ironman Group because we talk about it so much. And it's setting the record straight here.
It's look, I think the one thing, obviously I vomit about Ironman, having been absolutely passionate about it and been to Kona, etc. Look, I'm sure they're all good people. I'm sure the Advanced family are doing good things. I think it's this quandary, we do a sport that's soulful, and can you square the circle of being soulful and make money? And I think Ironman shows, I'm not saying you can't do it. All I feel is that Ironman shows you the way not to do it. So nothing against the dudes personally. It's just that they've taken a soulful thing and haven't squared the circle correctly on how to make money. Patagonia makes money, and I don't feel any vomit towards them, whereas Ironman makes money and I choke on my breakfast.
But how much is it related to the testosterone being present in Ironman anyway?
No, I disagree. Yes, look, okay, I've been to Kona and you parade up and down, and it's a very different feeling than I haven't been to Western States, but I've been to the start line of ultras. It's a very different feeling because it's an equipment, $15,000 bikes, yada, yada, yada. I think partly, but when Ironman started, it was just a group of people in a pub, right, in Hawaii, John Collins and some friends. And, it started from the Oahu open water swim, the around Honolulu or Hawaiian Island, and then, the run Honolulu Marathon. I think it started with good reason. I don't think it had to be testosterone.
Right. I guess I'm just too young to remember a time before Ironman, because anytime I look at Ironman since 20-something, 12 or so, and it's been like Ironman. So that's where age comes in, and you probably know a time before that. Anyway, we also had a few things here, other scandals I want to discuss with you. We hadn't had a chance to talk about it since we had guests on the show. We had Camille Herron and Stine Rex. Two independent stories, however, also linked to each other because both of the females are very known in the ultra running, mostly road running world. And I believe many of you out there have followed the stories more or less, but bringing you up to speed, I think it was first Camille Herron, where Canadian running magazine were discovering that from an IP address from pointing to Camille Herron's husband, it was found they were doing Wikipedia edits on Camille Herron's Wikipedia site and other ultrarunners' Wikipedia sites like Killian and Courtney Walter, basically taking out statements like the greatest ultrarunner of all time from Courtney and then adding it to Camille Herron's site. She then got a lot of backlash, of course. She deleted her X account, went off Instagram, however, just came back. She, I think, was doing Spartathlon in Greece. But yeah, that's quite something, because she online on X and Instagram is like this very happy, bubbly, friendly individual. Apparently the husband is doing funny things online. And then on the other side, you have Stine Rex, which is also famous for cracking many 48 hours world records, 6-hour world records, who has been taking part in events And it's less about her, to be honest with you. It's more about the events that she's been taking part in, who were not ratified by the global organization of multi-day ultramarathoning. And so her world record that she's famous for is not yet official, and probably will not be official because the events didn't get the ratification. So two kind of linked but not linked stories here. I will put them in the show notes too. But yeah, I was keen to hear your thoughts on this, Ned, because it seems to be something's going on in the ultra running world.
As you may have seen, because I sent you, I write my drop maybe 5-10 minutes before it comes on air. I just had my run and I sent this to you, Marcus, so I will read it out at the end. I read John Kelly's post, so, I'm definitely a fanboy. I will adopt that title, whether it was Scott Jurek back in the day, but I'm a John Kelly fanboy. I think he's. I don't know if you know Marcus, but his startup's almost unicorn now, from my understanding. Right? I met one of his investors the other day and said, I think, and if I heard correctly, and John, if you're listening, well, thank you for listening, John. If I get the numbers wrong, I'm sorry. I think they're over 7, 8, 9 figures at ARR. So absolute legend. So huge congrats to the dude. But he writes incredibly calmly and thoughtfully. Again, he's one of only 2 people in the world who finished the Barclay 3 times, him and Jared Campbell. What he wrote was this: guys, stop. Like, sure, some stupid stuff went down. And it's very hard to know. Why don't we all just spread a bit of love? So in general, my thoughts are, and as I will say in my drop, it sucks. Clearly something weird happened. Do I think Camille and Connor, her husband, are sitting at home rubbing their hands in glee like some evil gremlins trying to destroy the system? I don't. Do I think there was an error of judgment? I do. Has the error of judgment, we've talked about mental health before, has this error of judgment, is it part of her mental health struggle? Is it compounded by her mental health struggles? We don't know her. Simple answer, Marcus, I don't know. It's messy, and clearly someone took a bad decision. And that's about all I have.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks for your very kind thoughts, Mr. Wiseman. I do think that it's definitely speaks about the growth and the size of industry that such things get so much attention now. And that spreads like wildfire on social media channels.
Look, Marcus, I don't just want to sit here and sit on the fence and be like, it's okay. Clearly some shit went down that wasn't right. And I'm sure at the time when they did it, they kind of knew, right? They probably didn't think it was so bad. Let's face it, she got dropped by Lululemon within like 3 days. I don't know if you read, it was interesting. She put a post out that said, look, I'm really sad. I'm really struggling. She dropped out of Spartathlon. She didn't finish Spartathlon. She dropped out. See, no one's questioning her ability. She's one of the greats. She's one of the greats. Courtney's a great on the trail, but she's one of the greats. This is going to hurt her. I don't know. Like, here's the question. Is she going to be the same? So, Marcus, I'm going to ask you a question. And we don't know the answer to this, but I'm just going to ask. Is she going to be the same runner again?
I don't know the answer to this. No, I think that, if you believe in a body-mind connection, I think those things will leave a mark. And then also your body-mind connection is changing. And you will probably have a different path ahead of you.
I agree. I think, Marcus, you are a wise young man. I think that's really correct. I think, I think she always wins Spartathlon. She was never in the lead group. Now, this is very raw. It's very close, but it's not going to feel the same. So, I wish her well. I don't know her. I don't know her husband. She has been open that she struggled with, and I don't want to say, I don't know. She's had some challenges from a mental health perspective. So she said she struggled from online bullying a lot. Okay, let's get into it. Courtney and Camille, 6, 7, 8 years ago, were talked about as who's going to be Ultra Runner of the Year? Who's going to be the next great? Was it Courtney and Camille, right? They were right up there. When I used to listen to Talk Ultra 8 years ago, Ian Corliss used to talk about it. And, Courtney is the queen of the trail, and Camille's going to be, stay in the record books but washed away. It shows the power of the story and the content. And it's sad that Camille's story, and I think it is possibly that, and again, I don't know either of them, but Courtney has this incredibly balanced approach. Her life seems pretty mentally stable, her setup, whereas Camille has struggled. And I think maybe that's played into all of this.
Yeah, there's a very fine balance, very tricky balance you have to strike as an online personality, because anything will be held against you, whatever you say. And Courtney seems to be extremely talented and generally very good at being friendly online and offline. and just doesn't seem to do anything wrong. It's amazing, at least not on my radar. Camille did have some things here and there before where she was criticized for criticizing others. So just that little thing that she might have done in the past, whether big or not big, I don't know. History will tell us, but that seems to backfire right now. And I think that's where you are stepping on eggshells the entire time, being a personality and being an influencer. And I mean, just like you, right? You are now becoming influencer in the sales world, I would believe. And how do you feel about stepping on eggshells and trying to balance that?
Well, look, if you are, so I'm 57 and I realize I just be me, right? I intrinsically am not a bad dude, so I'm just going to be me and that's it. So when I record my little videos, it's just me. I just do them and send them out. Of course, you do have a little thought, oh my God. Actually, I don't anymore. I just post. And I think as long as you realize it's fragile, you realize you have to be grateful. Actually, I was running this morning, listening to two young creators talk about LinkedIn, and someone said, LinkedIn could shut down tomorrow. And then that's my little world. My world's LinkedIn. That would suck for me. Jesus. So they wrote, just grab it every day. Why wouldn't you post every day knowing that LinkedIn could shut tomorrow? And it's true. Like, it's super important for me. So what I think about is I have to post every day. I have to grab the opportunity as it is there. And as long as I just do me, as long as I'm just me and, I have a generally good disposition. It's the same with Courtney. Courtney's just been her. Did you listen to Courtney on Rogan? So 3-4 years ago, she was on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan interviewed her, and Joe said, because Joe's interviewed a lot of the guys, Goggins and Can, Haynes, and, and they've all got demons. Joe's feeling is if you've suffered, if you're in the Marines, if you're a fighter, if you're an endurance runner, if you're going deep, you've got demons, right? You're battling demons. And he pushed Courtney a lot. Where's your demons? She's like, hey, no, I just like running. She's like eating candy and drinking beer, and I wear long shorts. And Joe wouldn't have it. He's like, you can't win a 200-mile race without demons. And she's like, no, I was a school teacher and I'm happy with where I am and I have no demons. I don't want to say Camille has demons, but I'm going to say it. Camille has demons. Courtney does not. And that's why I think Courtney can bounce through it with doing no wrong.
This is a little side note now. Do you know the show on Netflix called Alone?
It's one of my favorite shows.
Oh my God, Ned. I finished watching season 10. Yeah. And anyone out there and have Netflix, look into it, right? I finished it yesterday and I spent the whole weekend basically binge watching season 10 of Alone, my first season. I haven't watched any other season. But long story short, 10 people are sent into the wilderness in Canada in this case. They can bring 10 tools and some clothing and then basically have to survive as long as possible. They're dropped in autumn and then they have to survive ideally through winter. The winner of season 10 lasted XX days. I will not spoil anything here right now, but the winner basically didn't have any demons. The winner who was the person who was the most joyful and just happy won the whole thing. And I was like, all the other 9 participants had to fight demons. And at some point they dropped out because either they were like winning against the demons or the demons was taking over, whether it's the dad or the mom or some who knows, right? Alcohol, whatever it is, right? But the guy who won was the most happy and enjoyable throughout the whole season. And I thought, wow, you don't have to have demons to win such a thing in the wilderness by yourself for 66 days. Now I said it.
It is, Marcus. I mean, another show to talk about this. We're going off script already. I mean, you want to see endurance? Don't look at backyard. Don't look at anything. I mean, let's be fair, Marcus. These are real wilderness people. They're not just 10 randos, right? And this is not Survivor. This is not a Survivor. This is not reality, people. This is real. This is brutal. Isn't it a great show?
Yes, and I'm excited to talk about this. But anyway, I do want to one last point on the being influencer side. I do think that like someone like UTMB's winner this year, Vincent Boyard, he chooses to completely be offline and just get on with his life, as far as I can tell, and do a thing because he maybe is aware that once you join that circus, you're in the circus, right? And it has upsides and downside. But yeah, I think let's close the chapter on Camille and Stine. We have to be kinder and move on from here. But I thought I want to hear your thoughts on it because it's been on the radar a lot. Also, we have a little bit deep dive into professional coaching because 2 things. First and foremost, there was an iRunFar article coming out. We will link in the show notes by Mallory Richard, and I talked to her beforehand. So shout out to Mallory. She put out a pretty good article a few days ago about professional coaching on iRunFar. And we're going to talk a bit more on the data of professional coaching. But also, secondly, it is on my radar like there's no tomorrow. I feel like the coaching industry is really taking off, and it's been talked about a lot by people. Everyone has a coach. So here's a first guess for you, Ned. How many North American trail runners do you think have a coach right now?
I'm not allowed to guess because I'm organized, diligent, practical human, as you know is not true, Marcus. And I read your show notes, so I know the answer.
Actually, do you actually read my show notes? Because I sent them beforehand and I never expect you to read them.
I actually read them. It's 13%.
Is it surprising to you, or how do you feel about that number?
The next number surprised me more, which is the number of people of Western states. I think it's, and this is going to surprise you, I think it's incredibly high. As an old person, no one had a coach before. I actually took me 20 years to figure out. Remember, we had Grant Giles on. I spent 20 years being a douchebag, and Grant taught me how not to be a douchebag. I'm still a douchebag to a degree. But the point was, if you want to get better, have a coach. So it's both incredibly high, because I think ultra runners are not naturally getting coaches. I also think it's incredibly low, because if you want to achieve your best, get a coach. Okay, here's my thought. In 5 years, it will be 30%,
right,
at least.
So 13%. So there was a survey done by the American Trail Running Association, ATRA, in 2023, and 13% of respondents said they have a coach. In 2023, also 36% of all runners of Western states had a coach. So if you are joining Western states, it was a survey. So almost like 36% had a coach. So pretty impressive. And also there's a graph how in 2016 it was close to 20%, and now it's almost 40%, right? So it more than doubled in only 8 years. So pretty impressive. And that was one. Would you become a coach?
So as mentioned, I've had a coach, one of the greatest. So I feel actually I've had two. Don't get me wrong. Actually, Marcus, I don't know if I told you, the US Olympic coach was my coach before. So when I tried to break 3 hours in the marathon, and I ran a 3:02 in Tokyo in 15 years ago, whatever, I had a guy called Greg McMillan. I don't know if you guys have followed, but Greg McMillan ended up coaching on the Olympic thing. Before he became kind of famous, he was just a regular coach, and I got him. He was great. My only two times where I've achieved, actually, what am I even talking about? I've had 3 coaches. So I had Greg McMillan as for a marathon coach, took me to 3:02. My fault, I didn't get quicker. Grant Giles, who took me to Kona, greatest coach ever. And then I had Bronco Billy, Jeff Browning, old man coach, who helped. Undoubtedly, if you want to be your best, get a coach. People, if you want to stop listening now, get a coach. If you want to be your best, get a coach. If you just want to you don't have to have a coach, but if you want to be your best, get a coach. Would I be a coach? I think, Marcus, you very kindly mentioned that I'm becoming a bit of a Z-grade influencer with my sales movement and running on LinkedIn. I think what I realize is a coach is partly about giving skills, but more about being a cheerleader. Do I think I'm good at cheerleading people, encouraging people, and motivating people? I do. So maybe it's a path one day.
It also comes down to money, right? I mean, cheerleading you can do for free. You can build your own AI bot, and the bot can tell you go, right? Okay.
No. An AI bot sucks. Nobody's going to do an AI bot. I disagree.
An AI bot which is paid in cryptocurrencies. Here we go, Ned.
I tell you what, an iBot paid in cryptocurrency, and the crypto is Ironman coins that allows you to do more Ironman. Oh my God, I think I'm going to die now.
Wow, this is now the top of the top. I need to always remember these 3 terms in one sentence so that I can trigger you. No, but I mean, I do think it comes down to money as well. And of course, there's a price to being coached. So the average monthly coaching price was $335. The median was a bit lower, was $277. So around $300 monthly coaching. What do you think of that number?
It's ridiculously high, unbelievably high. I could not believe it was so high. I did read it, Marcus, 335. Used to be $100, guys. Like 150 was high 10 years ago. You think cost of living has gone up? Generally, you try cost of living and coaching. 335? Dude, now, I get it. You know, if you really want to trigger me, put crypto, Ironman, whatever it is, and lockdown in there together, and then I will have a heart attack. But, you know, my tiny bit of political BS is that lockdown caused inflation. Don't hate me. It did. It's just true. The cost of living crisis clearly has spilled over into coaching. 335. Marcus, you asked me, will I be a coach based on that number? Yes.
But why do you think, I mean, let's look into it. Like, why is that? Because coaches are asking for more or because, I mean, on the other side, you can't win necessarily prize money. I mean, the prize money didn't go up that much to justify the coaching price, right? So it's really just a status? Is it just confusion? Is it just what's happening?
Let's be clear. There's no prize money for anybody who coach. People who, okay, prize money and coaching, to my mind, two separate things. Any pro who doesn't have a coach isn't a pro. So, hey, Courtney doesn't have a coach. There's exceptions, tiny exceptions, but pretty much. Michael Phelps has a coach, right? So let's be clear. Michael Phelps had a coach. Do not believe you don't need a coach. You don't have to have a coach. The people are making prize money. But again, trigger alert, $20,000 for a new TMB, Ironman, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. Do you know when Chris McCormack won Ironman Kona in 2000 and something, he got like 60K, and obviously Kona in Hawaii. At the same time, the Nevada State Darts Championship was on and the winner got 100K. I love darts. You got more for winning the Nevada State Championships, and there was a competition every week than winning Kona once a year. There's no prize money in our sport. Let's be clear. No one's making money in prize money. You never get coached to get prize money. It doesn't exist. That might change. The reason I think people get coaching, just normal people like you or me or anybody, is if you want to be the best of yourself, you need a coach because you don't know what to do. You don't know how to run. You don't know how to train. You just do it because you want to be great.
I want to throw in a different perspective because I also see something similar in other parts in life, which is I'm living now more or less in California for a bit, and everyone goes to therapy, right? A thing, you have to have a therapist. You have to, otherwise, like, what do you do in life? If you don't have a coach, you don't have therapy, you're a loser. I'm like, hold on a second, what's going on here? Like, you can just go running and have a good time and meditate. You're coaching yourself, right? But it's a thing. I think it's a thing. Like, you got to have someone telling you outside your friendship group to tell you what to do. You said a cheerleader. Essentially, it's a cheerleader, a sounding board, the other ways of describing it. But I think it's very similar in running because I talked to some runners and that, I've got a coach. He won XYZ. I've got a coach. He won this. And they're like, oh, okay. So it's been like, I do think it's some part status and some part societal pressure as well.
It's a good point. Maybe in America more so. People have more disposable. It's a good point. I think using other people to guide you in life is a much bigger part of our existence today. We're definitely going off script. So my dad's obviously a great man and I love him because he's my dad, but he's also a great man. He's a great scientist and he thinks deeply about human evolution and many different things. He focuses on the brain. We're designed, Marcus, to live in groups of 6 or 7 families around a campfire and tell stories. We humans are not designed for the world we're in. Is it 8? Did you show me?
Yeah, 8 people is a perfect number for a social organization to function the best.
Yes, and we're not used to. There was a really fascinating podcast that said, and it's actually my daughter, if you were 14 10 years ago, it was the worst time to be a 14-year-old girl. So my daughter's 24 10 years ago, because social media came around and you were exposed to 80 million people online in one go into your brain, telling you all kind of things that you didn't need to hear or didn't need to understand. And it was unbelievably confusing. And we're not designed that way. We're not programmed that way. And therefore you need, the world needs to talk to people about it. So I think particularly for younger people, I don't know the rates of people using coaches or therapy between younger to older, but I do feel that, the world has changed so dramatically. And again, lockdown being an even bigger shift to this online community. I think our brains can't handle it. So to the point about run coach, you're right, Mark. It's a really good point. I'd never thought that in general, we all rely on that outside influence to help steer our course more in general. Maybe that does spill over into running.
Yeah, I mean, I think the social circles are changing, and your maybe where friends or family before was where your cheerleaders. Now you have to have coaches in various parts in life to be your cheerleaders, and that's just maybe more commercial now. Anyway, thought it's good to talk about. I'm sure this industry is going to grow. I mean, I see it in Vietnam, Southeast Asia. It's also a great income source for many of the athletes who usually come from more rural areas, maybe not so educated and don't have the chances. So many of the very good athletes now are coaches, and it's amazing for them to now make a living from this.
But nobody in Vietnam is paying $335 a month. That's for sure.
I would not be so sure about that. So I actually do know that they're paying $100 for a session. So that could get to several hundreds of dollars per month, paid by local other Vietnamese who are very wealthy business CEOs, family conglomerate, so on. Yeah. And again, it does come down to I am coached by XYZ because he won UTMB. I mean, he didn't, no one in Vietnam won UTMB, but you know what I mean? So it's along those lines where I think it's also, if done right, and if you have the right certification, you have the right background and the right motivational skills, I think it's great.
So look, let's be clear. So, I think that let's say How goes on to win not anything, but a CCC, let's say a Sunmaya Buddha, One thing I think is you don't need certification. Honestly, Marcus, that's an old school thing. Screw that. Who cares if you've got some from the School of Physiotherapy of... Nobody cares. Let's face it, would you get coaching from Courtney Killian? Sure. I think it's an interesting point how Fujiao, Sunmaya, Stingray, Sherpa, some of these guys, I don't know, maybe they're coaching already. But you're right, it's a good point. If they charge 100, 200 in their home countries, if you're Nepalese, Vietnamese, Filipino following each of your heroes, and they got 30, 40 runners paying 100, 200 a month. Imagine Stingray goes and gets 30 clients at 200 a month. That's $6,000. He's earning 72K a year in the Philippines. Holy cow, man. I mean, that's money, right?
For sure. I mean, this is the David Roche and Megan Roche, right? The famous coaching couple here in US who has arguably 250 clients a month, right? And they have been Reddit conspiracy. So the disclaimer, but Reddit says that, they're raking in the money from pretty much standardized coaching.
I tell you what, Marcus, and we're going to move on to documentaries in a minute and content. I listened to one of their shows. Holy crap, they make me sound asleep. They're the most energetic pair. I mean, they know their stuff, but listening to it, and they even made fun. They've got these weird innuendos. It's like he's a little creepy. It's really good. I really enjoyed it, but they make me sound asleep. Those two are on fire.
They're on fire. And if you meet them in person, they're exactly the same. So he won Lead Bull 100. So hands down, he's a good runner for sure. And they know their shit. But anyway, so I think that's cool. Moving on to documentaries. You already mentioned the word. You want to talk about documentaries. You have a few more thoughts on all the millions of hours of documentaries you're watching every day, Ned. What's going on in the documentary world?
Man, I don't know, Marcus. I seem to have turned into a partly grumpy old man. I don't know what's going on. I'm not. I love everybody. It's all good. Well, you started this, Marcus, so I'm going to throw it over to you first because I think that's only fair. You made a comment that overwhelmingly there's a lot of not great running documentaries out there that are all quite samey, and they're not great, and the world's getting flooded, and it's hard to find good content. Was that a kind of correct summary of what you
Yes,
said?
That's correct. I did say that.
Yeah. And I was like, no, there's some great stuff. Then I started watching some stuff, and I'm like, what I don't like is, hey, waking up in the morning in the house, me getting ready for my race at 4 a.m., the struggles I go through, the same old stuff. This is me at mile 50. Am I going to make it? Here's my support crew. I mean, guys, come on, man. I've seen that stuff. Stop already. Now, I have to be careful because do I know the right way to do it? Maybe, or I don't, because I've not done it. Side note, I do want to, and I will. Is it just too hard to make? And, I'm going to highlight some people who do it fantastic, and I'll tell you exactly who to watch. Is it just there's too much out there now? Everybody can make a running documentary? Is that the problem? Or is it hard to make a great running documentary?
I mean, we did have Valentin on the podcast, for example. He talked about it being very difficult to find the right story, and he's very picky about it, for example. And like a Billy Yang, you see him being also very selective on what he's been doing. I do think, given that technology costs are going down, cameras are going down, hosting YouTube costs are going down, editing tools are getting cheaper. So it's just, there's more, let's call it, commoditized videos being able to show. You can even now edit fairly okay with AI. I've been trying it myself here and there, and you can just upload a 1 hour video and AI does the rest for you. I mean, it's not great, but it's getting there. So I do think the technology is getting cheaper and more available, and so that floods the market with more content for now. So I think the challenge is to find the right stories and greater stories than what we heard before. I think right now many of the stories we see are copycats from stories that have been talked about the last 10 years. And if you copy a Billy Yang film from 2015, I'm not sure it's going to be great, but you will get your 10,000, maybe 50,000 views, and that's not bad, but that's not going to make you great.
Is it? So I don't think it's the tools. I think you're right. Maybe we talked about 8 people sitting around a campfire, and naturally one of those people is a storyteller. Maybe there's only so many people who are great storytellers because it's not the tools, it's not the camera, it's not the AI. So if you've watched Ricky Gates, if you've watched anything with Ricky Gates in Every Single Street, Transamericana, and he always uses the best production company. It's called Wandering Fever. So if you're ever wondering what to watch, it's called Wandering Fever. It did Ryan Sands, and his great friends run across the Himalayas, which is, what's it called, Not on the Edge. Just fantastic. Have a look. Red Bull. Wandering Fever knows that to tell the story, you're not telling the story of the aid stations getting up at 4 a.m, all this type of stuff. So I think it's a combination of somebody who knows how to film, but also somebody who knows how to tell a story. So if any of you are wondering how to do that, Ricky Gates, he's just a natural storyteller. So maybe it's just that. Maybe there's just very few people who are great storytellers.
Yeah, but also I think stories are changing, and there is not anymore much interest to talk about 100-kilometer race story that has happened now hundreds of times. So now I think right now we need to, like, Killian is doing all the crossings, or Killian is trying. Even with Killian, I'm like, do I want to watch another Killian movie right now? I don't care anymore. I've watched maybe 3 or 4 of his whatever Himalaya stuff. So it's also getting, for me, it's going to be Killian suffering in the mountains. So what, kind of, for me? Honestly, I'm not that interested anymore. So I'm now more into, like, if you would run on the moon, that would be fantastic. Or if you would run underwater, I want something new. My brain that needs stimulation is like, give me a new story. Give me something that's even more extreme than something happened before. Right? So I think that's where we'll have to adapt to always new stories.
But yes, I do think it comes, some people. So why was William Shakespeare the greatest storyteller? Maybe he just had the unbelievable talent to tell great stories. I myself find William Shakespeare stories unbelievably boring. That's just me, right? I'm not cultured and I don't think it, but clearly he was a great storyteller. Some people, so again, Wandering Fever, these guys know how to tell a story. So you watch that Sam Harvey documentary, right? Dead Cow Gully, Breaking Point, right? Just a backyard. There's many backyard stories. You remember what he told us? It was filmed by a kid who had never seen running. It was filmed by a kid who was wearing dress shoes on a single camera, right? Here's what I've realized. The great Barkley film, The Race That Eats Its Young, was filmed by people who never done running. The interesting part is when you get a non-runner filming running, because Breaking Point, that was beautifully filmed, right? That Sam Harvey story, it was beautiful. And it was just a backyard story with nothing to it. Again, Sam went to the edge. I do keep coming back to that some people are natural storytellers, and maybe runners doing stories of runners bore us. It has to be someone else.
I'm trying to find examples in history where this has been proven true. And yeah, outsiders have a raw view on things. So I think that could make sense. Yeah, interesting point. Yeah, I mean, let's see what comes up next.
So if you guys, again, watch Transamericana, single best thing there is, watch Breaking Point. And I don't know if you got the chance, Marcus, to watch Feel It All. Did you watch it?
No, I haven't watched it. Feel It All, no.
I think I sent it to you. Really, it's a difficult thing to watch. It's about a ultra runner and a skier who many times has contemplated suicide. The opening of the film is him sobbing, saying he doesn't want to live. And it's not him looking for pity. It's him. He talks passionately about mental health. It's an incredible story. Really well told. Just, I hate to say a simple story about a man's struggle with mental health, but it is. And it is a story of him running 100K, but it's not. I think that's the point, Marcus. If it's just a story of you running a 100-mile Leadville race or Western States, it doesn't matter. Because today, we're in a very crowded space. If you look back to Western time, so when Billy Yang filmed Western Time, which was the 2013, or Unbreakable. Have you watched Unbreakable?
Yes.
Okay. So when Unbreakable came out, or Western Time came out, there wasn't much out there. Billy Yang was right at the beginning. People were like, what? You're a content creator in endurance space? That'd be ridiculous, right? That's not a thing. Whereas, so it was much less crowded. Whereas today, there's so many creators out there doing it. I do think you have to up your level. So I've noticed Billy Yang puts out less now. And I'm wondering why, whether he's going to be putting out something great. Interestingly,
Billy Yang, I overheard at an event. It was in France, I believe, UTMB. I overheard, he stood next to me. He's working on some new projects, which does not include filming. He's going into the hardware space.
Okay. Wow. I mean, look, good on him. Interestingly, just Sally McRae, her 3 200-mile epics. See, they were great because it's Sally doing 200 miles, right? And she's just a beast. She's like an absolute killer. By the way, Natalie Dow used to be trained by Sally McRae. We need to get Sally on because she's an absolute killer. But her filmmakers were 2 students from film school who'd never done running. And her 200-mile films are great. So anyway, long story, be selective about what you watch, people. try it all. I'd love to hear feedback. Please send us notes on great films to watch, because obviously I adore it all, but some people stand out. Would love to see your thoughts.
Nice. I agree. Just something that came on my radar very quickly is the stock price of On shoes compared to Nike, compared to Adidas year to date. On year to date is 86% up. Can you imagine that? On
Wow.
shoes, 80% up. Adidas has been up 30% and Nike down 25%. So On shoes is really doing well. So I thought that's really worth mentioning how On shoes is 86% up year to date compared to Nike 24% down. I mean, Nike has a lot of leadership issues right now, so they're trying to figure this one out. But yeah, I think On is really, really pumping it right now.
So, Marcus, I have noticed, I think as we talked about, that I maybe unkindly said Hoka's a fashion shoe now, not a running shoe anymore. Everywhere I look now, people are wearing On. I work with a client. I was in ATRR, just an inside thing for me and Marcus, where we both used to work in Singapore. Marcus, the company I work for in there, there was 5 of them in the office. I was the only one not wearing On shoes to walk around the office. I'm the only runner there. I've got my Converse on. As people know, I wear Converse when I'm relaxed. Everyone else was wearing On. I was the only person not wearing running shoes in the office, not running, wearing my Converse.
Just forgot to mention Deckers, who I believe also owns Hoka, is 42% up this year. So half of that of On. Not bad either, but still. I think On is interesting just for different reasons. Was quickly, the On strategy seems to focus more on general athletic, aka mainstream, and not so much on our industry, trail running. We at UTMB and other races, On was present, but not like mega present like Hoka, for example. And that plays out and pays out fairly well for On because they've been also very active at the Olympics too.
Marcus, this is not financial advice, but you did about 20 episodes ago talk about a strength ETF, CEOs who lift or do strength work and they outperformed. I'm wondering if an ETF of brands that are in the endurance trail ultra space, does it outperform? I wonder. I think it probably does.
It's very easy to set it up with crypto, by the way, Ned, just in case you're wondering.
Hey, so just to say, right, I may have to pedal back my anti-crypto views. People who may know I'm quite passionate about Myanmar. I have money in Myanmar. I have invested in Myanmar. I adore the Myanmarese people. I'm just going to shout out that the government there may not be the world's best. Don't hate me. And getting money out of that country is hard until somebody says I can get out with stablecoin. So as much as I hate it, my selfish genes may need to utilize some stablecoin to free up some hard-earned money. So I may have to dial back my anti-crypto rhetoric.
More to come for sure. On that note, let's wrap it up and listen to your beautiful poetry again. Ned, I'm handing it over to you for your weekly drop.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right. This one is, as I mentioned at the beginning, inspired by Camille, inspired by John Kelly, really inspired by John Kelly. We should all try to be a better person. So this is a little bit about the Camille controversy and inspired by the great, the one, the only John Kelly. This one's called Kind. Kind. Too much already. Like John Kay said, let's all just be kinder. Sure, it sucked. But what do we know? We all have our struggles. I can be a douchebag sometimes. You? I get it. It sucks. What apparently they did. But as the saying goes, first stone and all. So take a breath, hold it in, share the positive. Do you really think they sit at home and hate? Next time you mess up, think. The solution? You know, I know, she knows. Go for a run. When my life imploded, I was frozen, mentally. I did not run a step for 3 months. It sucked. A trap of my own making, deep sorrow and anxiety. I've never been physically paralyzed, but this felt like, I think it felt as that would feel like. Then I just had to go and run, or I would have imploded. I ran by myself, or with friends like Marcus, and talked. It's what helped. A lot. So give everyone space and kindness and go for a run. and they will run. And when you see her on the trail, smile and nod. God knows we all need it. See you out there, Ned.
Thanks, Ned. I mean, I think mental well-being is a super important topic. I would love to talk more about it as I'm, of course, entering into my 10-day meditation. It will be definitely a big part of my life, and you entering into another backyard, which also really is about mental strength. I was grateful for, I think I'm not so grateful the right word, but I was part of your tough times, and I think the podcast was also an attempt of mine to take you forward and get you to do things you enjoy doing, which is ranting and talking. So here we go.
Well, Marcus, I appreciate it, my friend. I do. I know we had that great run around McRitchie. I think you can do a lot more. There's something about running and talking. There's something about running and talking that I think somebody said it to me. It's interesting because you don't look at each other when you run and talk. You have a different perspective. You can just say it. I know it was a weird thing to say. We had that lovely run when I was, struggling and thinking you were incredibly helpful. And, Mark, I never thought about that. I mean, obviously, I'm a tiny part of Lecker. I appreciate it. This podcast is, I think me and you could just sit and run and talk this shit all day long. So it has helped me tremendously. So I appreciate it. But Marcus, honestly, your how do I say it again? Vipassana. Even that, Vipassana. Honestly, I have so much respect. I've listened. I'm petrified. I'm going to do it one day. It seems so hard, so tough, but so great, like everything. Marcus, can I ask, what day do you start?
On Wednesday, basically in 2 days. Today is Monday, recording Monday.
Is that Wednesday the 10th or the 9th?
The 9th.
And what day do you finish, Marcus?
On the 20th, on the Sunday.
Marcus, I am going to be backyarding on your last day. I am starting at 8 a.m. Tennessee time in 19th, Saturday. Where are you doing it, Marcus, in California?
Yeah, Northern California.
Okay, so that would be 3 hours behind. Do you know what time you finish on Sunday?
7 a.m.
Which is 10 a.m., which is 25 hours. Marcus, I will use the strength that you are going through, that I will not finish before you. But that's at least 25, which is definitely at the bottom of my range. But I will use what you will be going through to empower me to go forward.
Good luck with the backyard. And next show, we have another great guest on the show who has been making the rounds on television. So we're excited to have him. And until then, everyone, thanks for listening and enjoy next episode, which is going to be one of the silence.
Peace, love, and kindness, everybody. We'll see you. Bye.